All right, welcome back, everybody. My name's Token D Rock. It is Wednesday, March 9th. Hopefully, all of you are having a wonderful day. The overall crypto market cap is at $1.848 trillion. We have been pumping since last night. Bitcoin is well above 40K once again. Ethereum right around 2750. BNB nearing $400. Terra Luna just broke $100 within the past few hours. Cardano back of 80 cents. Solana almost $90. Overall, the crypto market is pumping. Looking at the Bitcoin 1 minute chart, we have some indicators on the RSI that Bitcoin is a bit overbought. That could mean that we see some selling going on from the buyers. Buyers become sellers, and maybe we retest 40,800, or maybe we just retest 41.7. Looking at the 1 hour chart, as you can see, we had some massive volume here within the past 12 hours, drove us all the way from roughly 39.4 all the way up to roughly 41.3, something like that. Decent amount of volume right there, as you can see. Looking at the daily chart, I moved my number 3 because, as you can see, I have a green line right here that's essentially kind of like a trend line. Bitcoin hasn't really broken through this trend line for the most part. Obviously, we have some momentary hourly drops in price, as you can see back here, and then we had a little wick down here, but for the most part, this trend line has held. So something to look forward. Could we see Bitcoin pulling back to say like 39.3 next time it comes down in price, or do we just retest these lines of support and then this trend line gets rejected and ultimately gets invalidated? But that is not the focus of today's video. Today's focus is Biden's executive order pertaining to crypto, along with potential dangers of digital ID and CBDCs. That's for the back half of the video. The front half of the video, we're going to go over the executive order. Key takeaway: U.S. President Joe Biden signed a first of its kind executive order on cryptocurrencies today, directing federal agencies to coordinate their approach to the sector. To give you a gist of like what he said, some key takeaways before I go into the key priorities of the executive order. The executive order directs federal agencies to better communicate their work in the digital asset sector, but it doesn't lay out specific positions the administration wants agencies to adopt. Did not announce any new regulations for which cryptocurrency companies have to abide to, so there's that. Senior administration official claims that without sufficient oversight, criminals can use cryptocurrencies to launder or evade sanctions, while also saying that digital assets can also provide opportunities for American innovation and competitive financial inclusion, adding that innovation is central to America's story and economy, generating jobs, opportunities, creating and building new industries, as well as sustaining our global competitive edge and advantage and leadership. 6 key priorities from this executive order. So basically, under the investor protection section, we have the government is trying to understand not only macroeconomic risks, but microeconomic risks, with risk to each individual, investor, and business that engages with these digital assets. The executive order includes an understanding of how our financial system does and does not meet the current needs of consumers in a manner that is inclusive and efficient, stating that consumers might face an antiquated payment structure which would be slow and unserviceable, saying this was especially true of cross-border payments. Future of money. Down here we have the treasuries to draft a report on the future of money and payment systems, analyzing crypto's impact on economic and financial growth and inclusion. As you can see, national security and the extent to which technological innovation may influence that future. The report should also answer the earlier question of how current financial system does or does not meet consumer needs. On Tuesday night, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said the report will complement the Treasury Department's existing efforts to analyze the cryptocurrency sector. Already, the department has worked with the President's Working Group on Financial Markets, FDIC, and OC to study one particular kind of digital asset, stablecoins, and to make recommendations regulations. Under the executive order, Treasury and interagency partners will build upon the recently published national risk assessments, which identify key illicit financing risks associated with digital assets. Again, digital dollar. The executive order will also ask agencies to evaluate how the U.S. could issue its central bank digital currency should issuance be deemed in the national interest. And this, the order ties into the Federal Reserve's ongoing efforts to study digital dollar issues. Branches of the central bank have published multiple reports in recent months evaluating both the policy and technological questions that must be answered before a central bank digital currency can be issued. As we know, China last year rolled out the digital yuan. Britain is looking to roll out a digital pound. The US is looking to roll out digital dollar. As we're seeing many countries around the world find use cases for CBDCs, whether you like them or not. The official said when it held the Group of Seven presidency, established a digital payments experts group to evaluate CBDCs as well as stablecoins and other digital payments issues. National security, international cooperation executive order has long been rumored to have a focus on national security. The fact sheet detailing the order mentions national security a handful of times, while an administration official said the administration has already begun work on addressing these concerns. So you see the DOJ and FBI each have their own relatively young units focused on crimes committed with or using cryptocurrencies. Then we have the international cooperation section of this. We remain committed to working with allies in the broader digital asset community to shape the future of digital asset systems in a manner that's inclusive, consistent with our democratic values, and safeguard the integrity of the global financial system. Fact sheet described this as promoting U.S. leadership in technology and economic competitiveness. Key takeaways from this, they're looking at ways to potentially protect the investor or the business that is buying into said Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. They're looking at it as potentially the future of money. They're looking at ways that they can roll out the central bank digital currency or the digital dollar here in the US, and how it can kind of implement portions of crypto into the way they send out payments via CBDCs. Again, we're going to go into that in a little bit. I just wanted to read over this so you guys could get meat and potatoes of this. This is Nayib Bukele. He is the president of El Salvador. He is very based, to say the least, but let's listen to what Mr. Trudeau had to say.
Canada and our allies will defend democracy. We are taking these actions today to stand against authoritarianism. The people of Ukraine, like all people, must be free to determine their own future. We will continue working with our international partners to safeguard Ukraine's territorial integrity and prevent further Russian aggression.
Okay, so what did he say there?
Free to determine their own future.
Free to determine their own future. Okay, just a recap if you guys completely forgot in the past few weeks, but this guy, he enacted emergency powers to freeze people's bank accounts over what he deemed was a small fringe minority of protesters that occupied Ottawa, who were peacefully protesting, peacefully occupying the city, trying to get their point across to the government that they do not want these mandates, they don't want forced medical procedures, etc. They don't want digital ID, vaccine cards, etc. every time you enter a business or establishment. And look, it's very interesting that a government will impose these emergency powers on such a small fringe minority. And look, they revoked their emergency powers 2 weeks ago after they finally stomped out the occupation of Ottawa, but they still continue with their expanded surveillance powers after they lifted the emergency powers, and they're now considered permanent. So look at this. This is Canada's banks are perfectly situated to help lead the creation of a federated digital ID system between government and the private sector. The World Economic Forum agrees. This is Neil Parmenter, President and CEO of Canadian Bankers Association.
Canada is on the cusp of a revolutionary innovation that will transform the way Canadians authenticate themselves online and protect their identity. Digital ID, all the world, but we're tethered to an analog model of how we identify ourselves, memorizing countless online passwords, carrying government-issued licenses, plastic cards, and more. Digital ID is a way for Canadians to identify themselves to government, businesses, and each other electronically with ease and rock-solid security, without the need to present physical documents. One interconnected network. A federated digital ID ecosystem developed in collaboration
Just
with
gotta put
Canada's
that out
best
there.
and
Not
brightest talent
decentralized
from our
whatsoever.
banks, telecommunication companies, law enforcement, and government. It would have the power and security to store every electronic identity and attributes, and it would unlock countless opportunities for Canadians to verify who they are safely, quickly, and securely, while only revealing the information necessary for each transaction. A fast, easy, and secure way to bank, sign up for government services, renew driver's licenses or health cards, shop, travel, and more.
Health cards.
Canada's banks are perfectly situated to help lead the creation of a federated digital ID system between government and the private sector. The World Economic Forum agrees that banks and financial institutions should lead the path forward for digital ID. Banks are highly regulated and trusted. They have advanced cybersecurity and privacy technology.
Trusted?
And they have the infrastructure to operate provincially and nationally. Banks are also at the forefront of working with fintech startups who are bringing revolutionary mobile and online products and services to Canadians. Digital ID can help consumers navigate between these apps and programs with trust and confidence, knowing their ID is protected at all times. A federated digital ID approach can also significantly reduce fraud, save taxpayer money, improve regulatory compliance, and make it easier to do business as an owner and as a consumer. In fact, the Canadian Bankers Association just launched a white paper with our recommendations on how to move forward with a federated digital ID framework. I encourage you to read it to learn more.
Here we have Edward Snowden. Governments claiming the authority to freeze people's bank accounts because they want to crush a protest movement is tyrannical and obscene. If you would oppose China or Russia doing it, you must oppose Canada doing it. I agree full-heartedly, Mr. Snowden. Some people do not see the writing on the wall, but look at this, okay? This is from Joe Rogan. Look at this.
Direct quote, though, on his, you'll see it, our teams are now embedded in governments around the world. That's actually what they wrote.
Yes.
And the
World Economic Forum. This is all out in the open. You can look it up. White papers are out there for the reading, but listen to this, okay? He's talking about the World Economic Forum.
direct quote, though, on his, you'll see it, our teams are now embedded in governments around the world. That's actually what they wrote.
Yes.
And the video is 2 minutes. I didn't play all of it. It's what he says.
But what he's saying there sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Figuring out on strategic ways to end the
course it does.
lockdown easily.
No,
that
not
makes sense.
Not the end of lockdown. No.
Well, didn't he say that?
Yeah. Keep in mind, Tony Blair is the one who's been advocating for
Tony
vaccine
Blair's over in
passports,
the
digital
UK.
identification through COVID, and all of these measures.
But didn't they say that about ending the lockdowns and keeping businesses?
Once those measures are in place, right? So he's, even in the UK, his stance has been, yeah, we're going to get out of all it, but you have to have digital ID and you have to have. So during the war,
this is going to introduce the social credit score system.
right? So what all of that came from your question, which is, regardless of intention, how do people do that infiltration from within? It's not just Twitter. So back to the psychological operations, it's also embedding people in government who are subscribed to this agenda. Yeah,
Like Tony
and the agenda
Blair,
of Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum is the same as the agenda of Tony Blair.
Trudeau.
In this regard, they call it on their own website.
Macron.
They call it the Great Reset. That's what they say themselves.
Merkel.
Yeah, that's a bizarre thing to do. To
Yeah.
Many
openly.
others.
Why do you think they openly discuss it that way? And openly, because the Great Reset has always been this gigantic conspiracy theory among the online folks. Like, this is all part of the Great Reset. Well, when he wrote a fucking
It's in
book
the
called The
white
Great
papers.
Reset, you're
It's
like,
in his
hey
book.
man,
Yeah.
shouldn't you be hiding this?
And in 2017 at Harvard, he's saying,
Oh,
you know, we're going to basically, all of these world leaders will penetrate their cabinets with our young global leaders. He's open. He's open. Blair's open. During the Iraq War, Blair tried to bring in ID cards in Britain. He failed. Now he's back and he's trying to bring in digital ID during COVID, right? So they're open about it.
So this is going to be this never-ending process to slowly move the goalpost.
Towards more and more authoritarianism, checkpoint society. It's all there. They told us this.
People have to realize this, right? This is important.
look at this. Gold, confiscated, bank accounts, frozen, stocks, frozen, central bank reserves, frozen, credit cards blocked, payment services blocked, shitcoin wallets blocked, exchanges blocked, Bitcoin doesn't care, doesn't abide by the general rules that the elites want to have living under. And then look at this. This is the extreme example of where we're headed, but the digital ID, CBDCs, if you're one of these people protesting right there and they use facial recognition to spot you in the crowd, oh, well, new pandemic arrives. Oh yeah, you remember that protest you were involved? Oh, well, you're getting less digital dollars this month because of that. You're getting less welfare. You're getting less unemployment because you were not behaving. You were out in the streets protesting against the things we are trying to impose on you. Well, F you. You're not getting as much money. It sounds crazy, guys, but this is more or less where we're headed. Like, look at this. These people are fighting against forced mandates over a medical procedure. Like, how ludicrous is this? Is the mainstream media covering this? This is going on in Europe right now. People are trying to voice their opinions against the government. They're trying to peacefully protest and ask for the government, hey, you know what? You guys went too far with these measures, and we are taking a stand. And you know what? We're fed up with this. So enough with the mandates, enough with the IDs proving that you took a medical procedure, all of that. Like, this is where we're headed, okay? If people do not recognize the danger behind CBDCs and stuff like that, if you're caught doing anything that goes against the status quo or the people in power, you can be imprisoned. They'll take away your digital dollar because, again, cash is becoming a thing of the past, you guys. Ever since this virus spread across the world, most people I know do not transact in cash. They're like, oh, can I just quick pay you? Can I Venmo you? You know, this and that, because people have already been fed the idea that this money, it's so dirty, it'll transmit the virus, this and that they don't even want to transact in physical cash. And how are they going to incentivize people to get rid of their physical cash? Well, they already did it that way. And another way they can do it is, okay, well, turn in your physical cash to Chase, Wells Fargo, whatever the bank may be. Put your money in the bank and we'll give you 5% more in digital dollar or something like that. That's an easy way that they can eliminate fiat paper cash. Have everyone running on CBDCs. Again, you guys, you have to think long term with this. If we do see some sort of emergency or pandemic in the future, because there will be emergencies, they're coming. Mr. Gates is already talking about a future pandemic down, rolling down the pipeline. I don't know why he's already talking about that, but he's doing it. And we need to prepare ourselves, because when that does happen, we may be forced to lock down again, sit at home. We're not able to go outside, go to work, go to school, etc. Whatever the activities may be, it may deemed unnecessary by the powers that be, the state, the people in power, the people in control. And again, if you're caught up in a protest or something, that may be a way that they kind of squash out protests. Oh, well, we have all these cameras and stuff all over the place to recognize people that are protesting that way when an emergency situation arises, a pandemic, whatever the situation arises. Well, you're getting less money from the government because you were not behaving, or worse off yet, maybe you're just detained and imprisoned. I mean, this is very unjust. It's the exact opposite of what I believe the free world stands for. And I think that this pandemic has given a lot of people a crap ton of power over the individuals like you and myself. And it's going to be a tough fight to get some of those civil liberties and freedoms back, because a lot of these people in power don't want to let go of that power. They got a taste of it and they want more. So it's going to require people like you and me to inform each other about what's going on, what, the mainstream media is not covering, because mainstream media is not covering these protests across Europe. Media is not covering how Trudeau is enacting authoritarian policies against his citizens. The media is not talking about digital ID, how it can significantly improve regulatory compliance, meaning you're going to force people to comply with your laws that you're mandating. Easier to do business as an owner and consumer? Yeah, the big asterisk there is only if you took the medical procedure, you guys. That's the big asterisk right there, because a lot of cities are still, even here in the US, I know some businesses over in Chicago that are still enacting if you didn't take this medical procedure, then you cannot enter. They're still on with that garbage, even though majority of the country has lifted the restrictions and the mandates, because they know we're going into election season. They know they're going to get voted right out if they continue with this nonsense. But anyways, that's about it for today's video, you guys. What do you guys guys think? You think digital IDs, CBDC is good or bad? What do you think of Biden's executive order pertaining to crypto? Let me know down below in the comments section. I'm not the only voice on this channel. You guys have a voice as well. We're all in this together. We're all living on this rock that's hurling through space at 1,000,000 miles per hour. We're all in this together. So speak your opinion down below in the comments section. I got some links down below to check out. If you guys want to get some interest on your crypto while you still can over on Voyager and Celsius, click those links, sign up for the Bitcoin rewards card to earn 1.5% back in Bitcoin for every purchase. You can still take advantage of that with BlockFi, even though they're not allowing new users onto their platform. You can earn some Bitcoin on every purchase with that card. Link is in the description. If you enjoyed the video, you guys, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Please hit the notification bell to be notified when we go live next. And until next time, everyone, pray, meditate, do whatever you got to do to keep a cool and level head. I will see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Take care and invest wisely. Peace.